Revelation 2200. From the 1st of January 1942. The conscious wanting to serve God. The conscious will to serve God is an open concession of submission of will to God. Whoever wants to serve acknowledges a Lord over him to whom he voluntarily submits. And if the human being wants to serve God, he has freed himself from the dominion of the one who fights God, and thus everything that is good. The will towards God is decisive, and the human being obviously desires God if he offers himself to him for service. But anyone who strives towards God will also be met by God, for he allows himself to be found by anyone who seeks him. He gives himself to anyone who desires him. And thus the spell God once imposed on the being because it became apostate to him is broken. The being becomes free as soon as it wants to be of service. It has passed the test of earthly life, although it still has to fight as long as it stays on earth, but the battle is not a hopeless one, it must inevitably earn it victory. Complete spiritual freedom when it departs from the earthly world. Consequently, the will to serve signifies salvation, for as soon as the human being wants to serve God, he declares himself willing to help his fellow human being. This is the service God demands of people, that they help to redeem the immature, that is, that they likewise try to free their fellow human beings from the power of the one who is responsible for their ban. Everything that is unfree and banished still has a will against God and should change this will. Often it is not able to do this by its own strength, that is, it fails to ask God for the strength to do so. Then the fellow human being has to help him by trying to introduce him to God's love and kindness, by making his will known to him and trying to induce him to unite with God and call upon him for strength and grace. He then serves his fellow human being with love, and he consciously serves God with this willingness to be redemptively active on earth. He now carries out a work already on earth which earns him heavenly reward, for he stands in God's grace. But God's grace is strength in everything he starts, for he stands in the circuit of divine love which constantly imparts this strength to him. Thus, it is not the one who wants to rule who will be the recipient of power, but the one who wants to serve. That which humbles itself deeply before God will be abundantly rewarded. He who wants to serve will be allowed to rule, for the flow of strength from God enables him to carry out an activity which brings him utmost satisfaction. He is immeasurably rich in spiritual possessions and distributes them to all those who live in want. He surrendered his will to God, and now God himself destines him for teaching activity. He makes the human being wise and thus gives him light. And the light dominates the darkness. Anyone who surrenders his will to God has relinquished his former resistance, and God can now endow him with spiritual possessions which will last for all eternity. Amen.